So what happens when you mix the personality of a school teacher, a lawyer, and a comedian, all into the body of someone who is on the conscious path toward enlightenment? Well, you are blessed with a beautiful soul that is Mia Lux. She is the new host of the new show, Conscious-ish, and she is on a mission to make the most transformational ideas more accessible by making them entertaining. Because in her words, if you're laughing, you're learning. So Mia, thank you so much. Welcome to Liberate Your Authentic Self. And thank you for hosting us here in the studio where you shoot Conscious-ish.
Oh, it's absolutely my pleasure. Thanks for being here.
Well, these are exciting times, and I can't wait to learn more about you. I've been, of course, fangirling and watching everything that I could find on the internet. You are hysterical.
Thank you. Say it again.
You are hysterical.
It's the only compliment I can actually receive, truly. So thank you.
Really?
Yeah, you know.
So I'm excited to dig in because, of course, you invited me to share on this show about self-love, and we have a lot in common, I discovered.
We do. I've been reading your book, Love You Me, and it really blew me away how your story. I was like, I know that feeling. I've been there. So
yeah. All right. Well, for our viewers, let's take them back a little ways. First of all, you're here in America. We're in New York, but you're not American. Where are you from?
Right. I mean, I'm kind of from all over. I was born in South Africa, but then raised in New Zealand, and then just came to America about 5 years ago.
Okay. So
explains my very confusing accent. No one can peg quite where I'm from.
Well, it's cool because there's sometimes that I've watched your videos where I'm like, I can't hear an accent. She sounds completely American. And then there's this little twang that slips in there, and I'm like, is that New Zealand? Is that South Africa? I can't tell.
That's why I have subtitles now.
Yeah. I love it. So tell me about the trajectory, though, because now you're doing stand-up comedy, but you literally were a school teacher and
Correct.
a lawyer. How many years did you practice law?
I mean, I practiced for 2 years, which was more than enough to realize, like, if that trajectory was a trajectory of burnout and stress and alcoholism and depression and divorce. Like, everyone ahead of me was like, I don't want to live that life.
Yeah.
But you know, it's like everything. I grew up in a time where there weren't many options. So people were like, you pick business, you pick science, or you pick law. Like, those are your choices. And so it was a very unintentional thing. Like, the first 25 years of my life were just making the best of whatever came my way.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did you make the jump then? And when did the school teacher
I just
part
crashed
come in?
and burned.
Okay.
My way of moving through the world was like, try something. So I became a lawyer and just exhausted myself.
Yeah.
It's nothing but conflict.
Yeah.
You start to see the world from an adversarial perspective. I honestly became a terrible person. And so, you know, when I crashed and burned and just rage quit law, I kind of wanted to go and do something meaningful. I thought I could make a difference in law and the criminal justice system, not so much. And so retrained to become a high school teacher, teaching kids with behavioral and learning difficulties.
Wow.
And loved it. Like, loved being a high school teacher. So difficult. Worked longer hours than I did as a lawyer. Made my own curriculum and like, you'll relate to this, just burned out. Like, I was working 18, 20 hours a day, making all my own resources and you know, standing in front of these kids and not seeing like instant improvement. And so my brain was like, you're failing, you're failing. And after like 10 months, I literally was bedridden. Like, I had full-on adrenal failure, couldn't get out of bed. I had to resign and was just like utterly heartbroken.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I've been studying burnout and resilience and stuff for a number of years, and you've got some warning signs in there, my friend.
Totally.
So if you could do this as a lawyer and do this as a teacher, that means there's some underlying tendencies in there. And you've admitted to this. You've admitted that you have a little bit of perfectionism that has driven you for much of your life. So talk to me about that.
I mean, not just a little bit. Like, the way...
I was being nice.
No, I appreciate it. Like, you're so lovely. Like, just, like, let's call it like it is. That the only thing that got me out of bed in the morning to do stuff was, like, literally my fear of failing, my fear of not being good enough. I had, my sense of self-worth was directly connected to achievement. Yeah. And so if I wasn't like, not just like achieving, if I wasn't like
super achieving,
overachieving,
yeah,
I was like, I suck. Yeah. And so it just, you know, it all came from fear. It came from a place which was exhausting. And the fear of failure really was it. Like, I was willing to do anything not to feel like I'd failed.
And where did that come from? Was it your parental influence?
Definitely my father. No, I love my father. You know what? The first step in personal growth is like, I blame my parents. And the next step is like, it's true and it's not helpful.
Right.
So I think it's, my family have a legacy for sure of, my father used to say to us every day, like, you stand and deliver. I'm like, yes, Daddy. He's loving, he's amazing, but we all had this kind of neuroses that was just handed down. Like, a human being is only worth as much as they can achieve. A human being is only worth as much as they contribute. Value was definitely affixed to external outcomes and markers for everybody in my family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so...
And now I'm a comedian.
I know.
Joke's on them. Yeah.
So how has your family reacted to that?
No, my family are like the bomb diggity. My family we've all been on a spiritual journey together. So when I was 16, I went to university and had a full-on meltdown number 1. And that actually weirdly started to kick off my personal growth journey. Mm-hmm. If that hadn't started then, I would never have navigated the next kind of 10 years like I did. And same with my father and my mother. Like, at the same time, we all sort of stopped and went, like, isn't there something more? And started to think about that. The seeds started to plant. So even though we all kind of started out in the same unconscious, like, no idea what we're doing boat, I feel like the last sort of 10, 15 years, my whole family have been on a healing journey together, which is super nice.
And so, comedy.
Yeah, comedy. So comedy is, in my opinion, the best way to build resilience. That's why I started doing it after crashing and burning and all the red flags. I was like, I suck at this. I realized the reason I struggled so much as a teacher was because I was experiencing what my brain was telling me was failure. And I just didn't seem to have any resilience for it. And with stand-up comedy, you can't do comedy without failing.
Yeah.
Most of the time. And not just like private failure. Like, you're in front of other human beings, failing publicly, feeling the crushing social pressure and crushing human embarrassment, and thus developing resilience to it. And so comedy was a way of separating my sense of self-worth from what I was doing. So rather than being like, that sucked, I suck, I was like, that sucked, I wonder what I could do to change it. And I had to recondition my brain through something visceral, through something experiential, and stand-up comedy was that crucible for me. That's why I started doing it.
Well, I find that with most performance art. Like, we're going to fail, you're going to mess up, you're going to miss your lines, and so on and so forth. I mean, I've been doing theater and acting and singing for, well, the better part of 20 years. But that sort of shift in your thinking that, okay, that was bad, but I'm not bad, is a critical one.
It is.
And during some part of your life journey, you ended up at Mind Valley, which is one of these wonderful personal development companies that we know and love. And you were director of content, right?
Yeah.
And
that was a
tell me
journey.
about that.
Yeah, so I ended up, once I kind of, it was just like, once you surrender to the universe. But yeah, I surrendered to the universe very legitimately after teaching. I realized that my mind doesn't know how to make good decisions for me. And so I was like, Jesus, take the wheel. And really started to follow my intuition, and ended up at an event called A-Fest. Met Vishen Lakiani, who is the founder and CEO of Mind Valley, and we connected over comedy. And he's like, come work for me in Malaysia. And I was like, sure.
Just like that.
They didn't even know where to put me. It turned up, they didn't even have like an official job for me yet. But we figured it out. I ended up working with their content team, content marketing, content creation. Ended up running some film studios for them in LA. And that was my first foray into personal development, especially behind the scenes, working with a lot of teachers and authors and seeing, the good and the ugly in the industry, and really getting a clearer perspective on like what works and what kind of teaching styles work. Started hosting A-Fest and all their other events, helping to build those events, choose the speakers, create experiences for people. And that was kind of like my personal growth university. Yeah.
So you've been now here in the US for 5 years. You've made this strong commitment to continuing the personal development stuff, but adding in consciousness with the comedy. So talk to me about, how did you come up with this concept for the Conscious-ish show?
Yeah, it's the name
which
that's
is like
only the most enlightened people can pronounce it. It's the Conscious-ish show. So the idea for the show came up because, I was doing comedy in New York, and I love comedy, but comedy is limited in the sense that it's highly entertaining and it will point to a problem, but it doesn't offer a pathway forward. But it has a huge audience, so comedy can reach people in a way that no other content can. But in terms of its, its effectiveness in helping people transform their lives, like it's hit and miss. Personal growth, on the other hand, tends to be super helpful, very transformative, but very earnest. And if you're not like really ready for it, and you're like, I'm ready, let's eye gaze, I'm open. If you're not at that space in your life, it can just be super intimidating. Like the first time I went to a meditation class, I walked in and was like, nope, and walked out, right? Because everybody seemed so like they knew what they were doing. They were super, like so serious. And I think we're running out of time. And I want to drop the barrier of entry to transformative tools. And so by marrying comedy with personal growth, you let the comedy be a effective kind of vehicle for the ideas. And so that's kind of the concept behind it, especially knowing that with laughter, a lot of people, personal growth can really push your buttons.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes we're not amazing at receiving critical ideas about ourselves or being willing to look at what's hard. If you get people laughing, they're so much more open. The moment someone laughs about something, they're laughing because it's true. They could acknowledge something about themselves that they would probably get defensive about if you just straight up lectured them. And so I really believe in laughter's power to help open people up to ideas that are super helpful, but that sometimes are really hard to hear informationally.
Now you just said that you think we're running out of time. What do you mean by that?
The world's ending. Climate change. I mean, everything. I mean, not even just climate change. Climate change, yes, but what is climate change created by? Humans. Yay! And especially, you can see, not just in America, but across the world, we're getting extremely divided ideologically. You can see people are digging in, and what's really scary is that we're trying to reason with each other with facts. Like, you believe this and I believe this, but here's a fact of why you're wrong. That's not how people's brains work. Like there's a psychological, it's called cognitive bias called the backfire effect, which just means if you have an idea that's related to your core identity, it's like who you are. Guns should be banned or abortion should be banned, whatever your beliefs are. If someone presents you with a fact, a real fact, contrary to your belief, all it does is stimulate the amygdala. It literally, it perceives it.
Because it's a personal attack.
Totally, perceives it like a physical threat. And people entrench their views. That's why it's the backfire effect. So every time we try to reason with each other using facts and statistics and ideas, and this is why you're wrong, we're making that divide worse. And that divide is like the basic human dysfunction, which is driving so much of our issues right now. And so I think finding ways to meaningfully bridge that, is really important. And again, laughter. The moment people laugh, they're out of their fight and flight. They're really able, again, to connect with people that they wouldn't necessarily be able to connect with before. Go to a stand-up club. By the end of the night, everyone's like, we're best friends. Everyone's laughed, had a shared experience. And so I think we have to find unusual ways to build the bridges between people because we are running out of time and to deliver the information to more people that are looking for it already.
And so with this platform, you're distributing the show online, but we're here in New York City. We're going to have a live studio audience when we record tonight. So what's the vision? And you've also recorded on location in other countries. So what's the vision for the show going forward?
Yes, the vision for the show, what we're creating right now is essentially a proof of concept. I want to prove that we can take this very effective model that we know and we love, called the late night style, right? We love it. We love, whether it's the Daily Show or late night or whatever, or the new one, A Little Late with Lily Singh. Take that concept, but instead of doing the news cycle, doing pop gossip and celebrity and focusing on that, using personal development ideas and the human experience themes as the content. So it's a familiar structure with like radical transformational content. And the idea is I want to create a proof of concept with the show, and then blow it up to mainstream. Like imagine if you just by osmosis, by watching American media, ended up changing and learning and healing yourself. I mean, I think that's the vision. Like we have to use, the media in America is so powerful. We have to use that to our advantage for something positive.
Well, that's been something that I have been championing for years, and it's why I actually took a hiatus from the American media for many years, because I was so frustrated that I wanted to present the deeper, true healing information. But I think you're right. I think there's this combination of things. We're running out of time. We're at a point where I believe Americans and other people around the world are recognizing that you can no longer count on your government, your healthcare or sick care system, as we call it. Don't even get me started on the pharmaceutical industry. Like all of these industries out there, we can no longer count on them to have our best interest at heart. So I feel like the American public for sure is now hungry and ready for the kind of transformational information that you and I and your husband even would like to share. People are ready to, let's admit it, take responsibility for their health and their well-being and their lives.
I really hope so.
Yeah.
I think what something that's blown my mind about America, you know, coming from a very different country, New Zealand's very different in many ways, is that, you know, there are many different Americas. And, you know, I live in a very privileged bubble, certainly in like the personal growth wellness scene. And when I travel outside of that and I meet people and I realize that a lot of people don't even know that's an option.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't even know that they can take responsibility. Like it's not even something that they're shirking. They just don't even know that's a pathway open to them.
Yeah.
And that breaks my heart, especially with healthcare, watching people who are really sick, who, you know, have preventable diseases, and they just don't have the information. And the same with self-love. Like people with crippling anxiety, fear, depression, who just don't have any of the basic personal tools to help them. And so that's where I think mass media, like we've gotta like
absolutely
get it out.
We've got to make it go viral, as they say.
Yeah, totally.
So I want to go back to one other point. Like you mentioned that you were flat out on your back, chronic fatigue, adrenal fatigue, like total burnout. Obviously, as a physician treating burnout, this is something that I'm passionate about, and as are you and your husband. Tell us about that recovery process. Like, because now, I mean, is it true? Like you look at her and you see this vibrant firecracker of a woman. I know what burnout looks like when you have literally been, you know, bedridden for months and months and months. Yeah. So for you, there was also a viral infection that complicated things. Tell me about that recovery.
I've kind of like done the Pokemon collect 'em all when it comes to sort of like chronic diseases. No, so I had burnout. I also had very severe lead poisoning and Lyme disease, and I've taken a few kind of journeys around the kind of chronic fatigue block. And, you know, every time it's been the same. It's a combination of like emotional and psychological and physical stress. And the journey out of it, I mean, it's hard. I'm not gonna lie. The first time thank God, had access to a functional medicine doctor who was able to be like, I think you have adrenal fatigue. Because my doctor was like, that's not a thing. Right. You're just sad. I'm like, am I? And so luckily, he was able to put me on an incredible supportive regime of different herbs and supplements. But a lot of it was like getting rid of emotional stress, of toxic relationships, dealing with the psychological component of beating myself up all the time. You are terrible, which is not good for the system. And so it was a journey. Like it took me about 2 or 3 months to really work my way out of it. And ever since, I've been super mindful. So I meditate. I do strength training. I'm insane about my sleep. I'm like 9 hours a night. Like I'm really, really
9.
9 hours. Yeah, life is long.
Go, girl.
9 hours. And so just really learning how to take my health so seriously. Realizing that like it's not some trivial thing, and that your health is your vehicle for everything else in your life. And that was a big shift for me. So, and I still struggle. Like I don't. My body is mostly better, but you know I'm still getting rid of all the lead, and you know I have weeks where it's hard, and that's where having the practices, knowing what supports me, having the information, really study a lot about what to take and all the kinds of interesting treatments we can do. I became my own physician. Own health advocate.
So it really has been this complete holistic approach, and you stay on top of it.
It has to be, and a big part of it is the commitment to self. Even with the eating, like my biggest weakness is just terrible sugary, crappy candy. Like binge eating it. Like eventually, like I had to have a star chart and 90 days in a row go no sugar to break the habit, because I was like an addict. Like I would sneak out and go to the gas station and eat like 8 candy bars, and then hide them and come back home, like crazy stuff. And so just really getting clear about like, where do I struggle? How do I be accountable for it? How do I support myself? Why am I craving sugar? Like it's a rabbit hole. But the cool thing is there's so many resources out there now. Now when people are in a situation, like you can Google, why am I so tired all the time? And you can actually come across useful information. So it's good. Yay, internet.
Well, yay for you. Yay for your recovery. Yay for this show. I'm super excited to be a part of season 1 and spreading this wonderful information, as well as this approach to consciousness and expanding our consciousness in a way that, as you say, is less earnest and more fun.
It's all about the ish. We always joke, like, the ish is where imperfection lives. It's where silliness lives. It's where fun lives. You know, we can be pretty-ish. We can be, you know, like serious-ish or spiritual-ish. And it just creates a space for having some flexibility for the imperfection that is human nature.
Awesome. So where can people find you and find out information about the show, and when does it officially launch?
Right, so it officially launches in the first week of November. It'll be an episode a week, and you can find it on consciousish.com. So yeah, so it's free to watch. Anyone can come. We're just trying to make this thing fly and spread the message, spread the ideas as far as possible.
Excellent. So there you have it, my friends. This is a lady to watch and follow on all of the social media outlets, and definitely tune into the show the first week of November. Until we meet again, my friends, remember that you are a gift to the world. So share your presence with passion. Much love. Thank you.